your podcast, number 2, which means that we've made it past the first one. Congratulations.
Thank
by the
you
way,
very much, Ken.
Andy and Marina and Shane behind the camera. My name is Ken Maguire. Andy Murphy is on the left-hand side of the couch, and we are joined today for the second podcast by Alison Miller. How are things? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm flying it. I'm all right. You're the guest of honour today, so it's going to be you answering the questions as opposed to me. Yourself and Andy go way back. We're going to dig a little bit into your background, sporting side of things. You've got the club and the provincial and the international rugby career, what you're doing now, what the goals are, what follows next. Where did it start for you? Pre-rugby? Athletics, football?
Oh, I was always a sporty child, I suppose. I suppose it helped. My mum was a PE teacher. Father played inter-county football for Laois for years. Coached Aerog football team in Carlow, which were hugely successful. So sport was always in our house growing up. So I did everything growing up. I did ballet, gymnastics. I did athletics in St. Albans. That's how I know him. I did hockey and volleyball in school. Played inter-county football for Laois before I took up rugby. And I really didn't get to rugby probably till my fourth year in WIT, and that's when I took it up.
Yeah. You just kind of willing to try your hand at anything, or was it?
Well, as they say, a lot of sports are very similar, and there, I suppose, the percentage on the specifics, I'm not really sure what it is, but mostly a lot of team sports are very similar in the movement, the principles, and I suppose, the sports people, if they're good at one sport, they can be good at others. Now, that's not always the case, but it is. If you do see a lot of our sports people, you will hear that they were good at other sports growing up. So I enjoyed doing loads of sports. I just really enjoyed playing, and I think for children and for me, I got a huge multilateral development in all those sports. But you also don't know what you're going to be best at.
Sure.
Look at himself here, like he was a cross country 800, probably 800, wasn't it, mainly?
800 and 1500, yeah.
And now he's doing MMA.
Slight bit of a change.
Yeah.
Slight deviation.
Mad, because we were saying you took up rugby in 4th year in WIT. My running career stopped in the 2nd year of WIT. And I was like the WIT Athletics Club chairman. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he did. In fairness, Andy was great, and he brought a lot of energy to that role, and he got a lot of athletes that maybe weren't competing at the time back into competing for WIT. He ran a very professional ship in there, and there was a very good morale, and it was enjoyable as well. So that was fair play to him for that, and he's putting his energy now into something else.
Sound. So why then? What was the draw to rugby? Like fourth year in college seems. I know. Okay, Grant, you've got the lifelong and childhood and teen background in sport, but 4th year in college seems to be late in my head for somebody who's drawn to rugby, considering what you see on the ground now with like under 6s and under 8s and everything on the Saturday and Sunday mornings.
It's true. I suppose back when I was growing up, there wouldn't have been many girls playing rugby. There would have been the odd girl playing on the boys' team. Maybe certain clubs would have girls' teams, very few. Suppose what happened, my father died out of the blue in the summer of 2006, which was the summer I had finished 3rd year and I was going into 4th year. So that was, he was a young enough man, he was fit, and he died of a heart attack. So it's funny, sometimes like bad things can make you think differently. So when I went back to college in 4th year, September of 4th year, people had always said it to me. I had 2 friends in WIT coaching the women's team. They always said, you'd make a great rugby player. I had speed from athletics. I was freakishly strong, according to them. And I was looking for a distraction, possibly, from what was going on in my personal life. And it also makes you think differently, that life is short and you should try new things. And if I wasn't going to start then, it might be too late. So that's what made me go and try it. It took me a few weeks to actually go do it, though. Me being me, I was like, I'll do it next week. Go on Tuesday. Oh no, I'll go on Thursday. That probably went on for about 3 weeks till I eventually turned up, and hadn't the notion for a long time, really, that whole first year playing. So I'm glad I took it up then. It's funny though, because I didn't really take, like, I was playing football for Laois ladies at the time, played another year, and I didn't take up rugby with a club till about another year or 2 after that. So I could have stayed playing football, but I'm glad I got into rugby then.
And zero experience with the rugby level side of things before college, even from a spectator side.
Suppose where I grew up in Laois, it's football.
Yeah.
My side of Laois, we don't play hurling, so it's GAA is the predominant sport in my area. Now for the girls, we had a basketball team growing up, Killeen Basketball Club, so I would have played more basketball. But even the boys in the area, very few would have played rugby. Some would have played in Carlow or Athy. Wasn't in the family, and no, I always liked the idea of playing rugby. I always used to think in my head as a kid, I'd love to play rugby because the physical nature and the freedom that you have running with a ball that you don't have with other sports. And no, never. I think when I was in second year in St. Leo's in Carlow, someone came to me with a petition to sign to form a girls under 14 team in Carlow. I said, yeah, I'll play. Nothing came of that then. So that was the only real thought or idea I had. So
okay,
yeah.
When did you get to the point where you were like, I'm done with football, rugby is where it's at?
I actually remember the very, very night we were in the middle of this ridiculous fitness session with the Laois County team, and I did athletics for years. I did so many different types of horrific sessions on the track, but it was in my head, I just couldn't see the point of the running. It was just mindless running in my head, and I was like, oh no. And I actually just decided I wasn't playing for Laois that night, and I left the team, and it wasn't anything to do with that really, but I had enough probably. And then I joined because I wasn't really enjoying it. I turned out to have a bad season that year, and then went on kind of Laois ladies kind of dropped off a little bit after that. But I then decided to join the club then in Portlaoise probably the next, so that would have been March, April of...
Is this 09?
Yeah, and then I joined the club then in August, September then following that, the rugby club in Portlaoise. What
was the first year of club like?
First year club, we were in a very low division, but we had a reasonably good team. I probably was scoring 6-7 tries per game very easily. So,
but does that make you feel that you were like really good and that you were at a really high standard really quick, or is it like maybe the competition and the development of the ladies' game it needs a bit more?
Well, it's funny that people put ideas in your head. Our college coach had said I could play for Ireland when I was in college playing, so that was in the back of my head probably, and I would be very ambitious and determined from athletics, from sport, and it was in the back of my head. Yet I knew, look, you don't know any better as well.
Sure.
I had never played rugby, so I'm just playing this division. Yet I do know there's higher divisions there, but there's also people saying, well, it's only this division, she's scoring 6-7 tries, so do you know how will she get on the next division? I do remember my coach saying to me, you won't be able to do that now when you go up the divisions. But the difference was, every time I went up the divisions, I could still do that. When I went and played for provincial, I could do, and then when we played internationally, I could still do it. So in my head, I always probably knew I could still do it. I just didn't listen to people that were telling me, it changed now when you get up you go up a bit higher to the next level, you won't be able to do that. But I could.
I love that, and I love that the early stage someone said that to you, and then that gives you a little bit of belief in your head. It gives you so much belief, because for me with the MMA side, I discussed this on our first podcast, the idea of after training for a year, my coach said, Andy, do you want to take a fight? And just the fact that he was asking me that question had it in my head. He wouldn't be asking me to take a fight if he didn't believe that I could go in there. And I'm sure your coach for rugby wouldn't be just saying that off the top of his head, you could play for it. I'm sure from our running background as well, I remember James O'Rourke back in the day saying to me, running wise, he goes, Andy, do you want to play football for Carlow or run for Ireland? And that was when my kind of GA kind of stuff started to stop, and I put all my effort into running there. I was like, he thinks I could run for Ireland. I want to go.
And that's interesting, because I was saying earlier that most sports people, if they're good at one, or if they excel in one sport, probably could have excelled. So there you could have played county football.
Yeah.
You did athletics for Ireland, and now you're excelling in MMA. So it's interesting, I suppose, when you think of that.
But again, it comes as well, there's obviously self-belief, but when someone believes in you, it does a hell of a lot for your confidence.
It does. You have to have your self-belief ultimately, but you need to be reassured. And that's why I always think that's important. If I'm I'm obviously an older player on every team I play now. And I like to sometimes, you'll see the younger girls or boys even, and self-doubt was something I always struggled with, even though I knew I had the ability. So it was strange. I used to have the self-doubt and the belief all at once. But it's good to give those young up-and-coming athletes, a little bit of reassurance. You're good enough, and it helps them.
We talked about this before as well, and sometimes you put people up on a pedestal or a ladder. For me, when it was MMA, I went to Alpha Male to the States. If I went there early in my career, I wouldn't have been any good over there, in the sense of I would have just been seeing UFC fighters and, they're here, I'm here. Whereas when you really kind of step it up in the sense of you go over there and you realise a neck is a neck, an arm is an arm, a foot is a foot, the technique is what gets you your submissions and stuff. So you were talking about your levels in terms of rugby as you went up. Nothing changed. You're still performing the same activity. The only thing is changes is the environment in terms of the competition. You're still doing the same ball handling skills. You're still, you're super fit. You're super athletic. I remember working in Greenbank. I'd see you in the weights area. And the form that you had was like pristine, but you were lifting heavier than most of the guys that were in there. You come in, you're doing your deadlifts, you're doing your bent over rows, you're doing your strength and conditioning was so far ahead of most people coming into the gym at that time. Yeah. I think it's testament to you. And you had you broke your leg. Do you remember that? It is right.
Yeah, in February 2018, I broke my leg very badly. Same leg break as Seamus Coleman.
Yeah.
So double leg break, tib and fib, and a compound fracture. So that was a right job. But I got back playing internationally after it.
It's phenomenal.
When you're talking about the change of environment, your environment changed fairly quickly. You had maybe like a year or so at club level with Portlaoise, and all of a sudden you're pulling on the Irish jersey.
I had 1 year fully playing. And then at the end of that playing year, my coach said to go for Leinster trials, and I suppose it's the failure I had at the Leinster trials probably spurred me on to want to play for Ireland. And it's funny, maybe if I just got picked in the Leinster team, I might have been happy with that. So went for Leinster trials that June following the full year, first year. Performed well, and I knew I performed well, but yet I felt I wasn't going to get picked. So I went for the 2 trials and I got a rejection email, as a lot of us did, and I was really annoyed. I stormed around the kitchen cursing. I won't curse here now, and I knew I'd performed well, and I knew deep down I was better than some of the girls there. But I probably knew also I was probably more raw than those girls, but probably more naturally able than some, but probably not the same stage of development as they were at that time. So I got an email. This is how I suppose I ended up playing for Connacht Rugby this is my 11th year playing this year. Got an email from Connacht Rugby asking girls from Leinster clubs, do they want to trial for Connacht, because traditionally Connacht would have less women's teams. So I went up to the trials. Probably suited me better. They were training trials as opposed to a one-off trial, and learned things at the trials. Got to play for Connacht Interpros. Played 1 game with the Irish coach was there, and then I was suddenly in an Irish camp. So after going from not making an initial probably 45-man squad for Leinster, getting me on the Irish squad then that December 2009/2010.
What does that do to your thinking?
I suppose I deep down thought I was good enough. The guy in WIT, Michael his name, Mick, he knew as well.
What's the last name? Wasn't Mick Evans, no?
No.
I was like, so, cut that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So I knew I was good enough, yet when I did get up to Irish camp, it was sink or swim stuff.
Yeah.
And I did not know a lot of what I should have known. Did help that now I'm married to him, but at the time I was going out with my now husband, and he was a rugby player.
Yeah.
So that was a huge part of my developing as a rugby player as well, was seeking out knowledge from him, sitting down with him, watching games, asking him after games, what should I have done here, giving you a bit of advice, giving you feedback. So it wasn't just using your natural ability, it was trying to close that gap from where I was to where the rest of the girls were in terms of understanding, in terms of game knowledge, tactics, your technical ability. You're trying to bridge that gap really quick within a few weeks so that you're surviving, that you're just swimming.
Yeah.
So every camp you're just swimming, you're just trying to not look like you don't know what's going on and just, kind of stay afloat, stay in for the next week, don't get dropped for the next camp, the next camp, the next camp. And, and then I suppose I got my first start in the first RBS Six Nations game of 2010 against Italy.
Yeah.
So it was just survival stuff that first year of that first camp. Just try and learn quickly. And if you don't learn quickly, and you have to learn quickly, I think if, I suppose, good athletes or good performers, they have an ability to just adapt to their environment, learn quick, move on, find out what areas they're not strong in and try and develop them quickly.
Sure.
I completely agree with that. But we talk about network and Gally, what a guy to have at your side then as well. From like when I first started in Greenbank, we talked about it on a podcast. When I first started in Greenbank County Leisure Club, Alan Galvin, this lovely lady's husband, was an operations manager there, and he was playing AIL Division 1 rugby, for Carlow at the time. So having that sort of team beside you to be able to go home after a game, break stuff down. I remember I was coaching New Ross Rugby Club, I think, in terms of their health and fitness, and I remember seeing, I think, one of your matches when New Ross went to play Portlaoise.
Yeah,
I think I remember bumping into the 2E there as well. But you're always side by side. I think it goes hand in hand because Gally went from being an AIL Division 1 rugby player to now he's doing Ironman, he's doing triathlons, all of that sort of stuff. It's mad the way that he's gone from rugby to that element, and you've gone from athletics and being not just a runner, but a serious runner as well, might I add, to going to international level in rugby. Do you know what I mean? Like it's polar opposites, but no doubt there's probably you both help each other out.
Yeah, he was a good rugby player in his time, and it was the time in the AIL Division 1 where the professionalism, the game was professional, but Irish players could be released to their clubs and you could go down to Cork Con and play international players. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, so half the Munster team. So it was in that era. Yeah. So he was a 16.5, 17 stone hooker to a guy now doing Ironmans under 10 hours. So
was Contapomi with Carlo as well?
He
would have been.
As well, I think. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's your claim to fame. Contapomi.
There you go.
Twice for Carlo.
His picture is still on the clubhouse wall in Carlo. Yeah. So you get through the Irish camps. You get toward the Six Nations. You're getting ready to line out against Italy, and you were talking about the kind of making that jump between the club and the interprovincial stuff and then onto the international scene. So the environment is obviously very competitive. You're coming in, you're saying you need to know, to bridge that gap, you've got holes in your game, you got to learn quick, you got to learn tactics, you got to learn how things are working. You're not the only one that's in there. There's an awful lot of competition for places. You're getting to the international level, but are there or were there at that time, this is going 10 years ago, support structures and good support structures in place to help you sustain that?
I suppose it's, in a way, I think if you're an international player in that setup, you need to know it yourself anyway. So if you need to go off on your own, or if you need to work with someone, I worked back then with Joey Carberry Senior, who's Joey Carberry, who's playing for Munster in Ireland now, his father, because my passing wasn't up to scratch. So I went to him. I was like, can you help me with my passing? I dragged him up to the rugby club on, rainy nights. Can you work on this, and this with me? So when you get into an environment like that, there is people to help you, but you need to help yourself too, or else, because I was relatively unknown. I was this girl that no one knew because I'd come from the lowest division. Sure. At the time, people that were in my division of rugby didn't play for Ireland. So no one knew who I was. Just turned up and they're like, literally it was, I remember, who is she?
The work experience person in the corner coming in like.
Because I knew one person, Niamh Briggs in WIT.
Oh, yeah.
That was the only person I knew. So I turned up to camp not knowing anyone, don't know what's going on at all really. And so it's a team sport. Yeah, there was girls that did help you with things, but then also it's a competitive environment, so they don't probably, fair enough, they don't want to help you too much maybe if, and also you're aware that you don't want to bring down the level of training because, if you're not up to the mark, well, you're not going to stay there too long.
Yeah.
So it was about helping myself. There was very good people that did help me. And I suppose for them, they saw the potential in me. So like, if we can get this girl doing the right things, she's an asset to our team.
Yeah.
So they, like, players did help, but you have to help yourself too.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And you stand over a lot of that as well. I mean, with the, like, working with Rich, the visualization side of things, working with other coaches, working on your own coaching as well.
Yeah, there's that, but I think something you just touched on there was the idea that, yes, it's a team sport you're playing in, but I think something that helped me out a lot with MMA, and maybe even now with the gym, is that, like, with running, and especially middle distance running, there's a lot of stuff you have to do on your own. Like, I talked about this on our first podcast. You're getting up before college or school, you're going for your run in the morning, you're going to school, you go and run in the evening. Doesn't matter if it's raining outside, it's sunny, whatever. You have to get up and you have to go, because at the end of the day, running, say, competitively 800 meters, 1500 meters, your cross country, it is an individual sport. And you have to put the work in to be able to perform, and the only person you can blame after a loss or not performing on the track, or the same for MMA in the cage, is the person in the mirror. And I think what Alison touched on there about seeking out help, I talk about the same for here in the gym. It's not equipment that makes people better. It's not fancy 4 walls, or even when I went to the States to Alpha, I'll bring that up again. The gym wasn't anything fancy, but the people that were in the gym, they were the people that made me better. And being around people like Alison, we have to call on Alison today to share her knowledge. And something that's already touched on in this short half an hour so far is that it's the people around her that have helped her hugely, but there's also self-belief there as well. You can't do anything on your own. Certainly in a team sport, there's the 14 other people around you help you out there, but everyone has to be pulling in the same direction. And if it is a competitive nature as well, if you're playing at international level, there's obviously dog element as well there. Everyone's competitive. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's hunting for Alison's jersey. Like, there's always someone coming through. Conor McGregor said it too when he first burst onto the scene in the UFC. He was saying there's always a new hungry gorilla in coming through, and you can see that in the UFC now with Conor's more hungry gorillas coming through, not by means of SBG, I mean of all these other fighters coming through now, in terms of like the Khabib, and you see John Jones, you see Adesanya, all these, this evolution, but they're all doing the exact same thing. They're seeing what's got people to a certain level, and then how do I surpass that level? What do I need to do myself to make myself better? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How do I maximize my strengths, but also how do I compromise for my weaknesses then as well?
We've spoken before about you making your pro debut, getting in the 3 Arena in Dublin, coming out under the lights, the crowd are there, and moving on from there. What was that like for you? You get to that Italian match, you're wearing the Irish jersey in a competitive fixture.
Yeah, I suppose for me, playing internationally for all those years, I played 10 years for Ireland. For me, everything was more nerve-wracking leading up to the game. Now, yes, when you're singing the national anthem, you're really nervous. And until the ball is kicked in, you're really nervous. But once I was out there performing, I loved every minute of a performer. Probably got more nervous the week, we're doing a captain's run and coach is looking at everything. I'd be more nervous for that. It was like a sense of freedom when I got onto the field. I was like, right, we are playing. And it's, at the end of the day, it's a simple game.
Sure.
Well, relatively.
when you know what you're doing.
Relatively. But for me, I used to love the big days. Give me the big days. I would have struggled more now if you're playing I wouldn't say a practice game. I know game's really a practice, I suppose, essentially, because you're always trying to perform and get a place. But I would probably struggle to get up for those games more than the big game that matters. The do or die game, that's when I was at my best. I was a performer, I suppose. And I think this guy's probably a performer too, because he has that competitive element, and I can imagine that he loves the big days. So for the first game I ever played, I remember I had so much self-doubt because it's 80 minutes of international rugby. You've never experienced it. I remember the day of the game just lying in my bed in the team hotel. And my roommate's like, you better get out of that bed. Like, you have to play a game at 7:30 tonight. I was like, yeah. And all I could remember texting himself, the husband, and my mum was like, I just can't wait till 10:30 tonight. It'll all be over. Whatever happens, it's done. It's over. And you have that self-doubt, but you have the same self-belief all together, I suppose, at one time. But once then within 2 or 3 minutes into the game, I was really enjoying it. I was loving it. I knew I was able. It's not that you know you're able, but I suppose till you really experience it, you don't know if you're able. You know, you can have the belief, but till you're actually out there doing what it is that you have to do, you don't know whether you're able. And once I knew I was able, I thrived off the crowd, loved the big moments, and I had a good game that night. On my debut, played 80 minutes and scored a try, so I suppose you can't ask for a better debut than that, but I thrived off the big day always.
Nice.
She always put the work in though. Like people watch 80 minutes of you. You know, you're flying down there, you're super fit, but like this woman works so hard. Like I said, with the leg break, with the numerous injuries that you had, even when you were running, you're always on the track. You're always doing your prehab, your rehab. You do all the stuff that people don't see. People watch a match and they see 80 minutes of, you know, an Irish jersey, but they don't see the work that goes in. And I think what you said there about the 7:30, waiting for 7:30 to come, when you wake up in the morning and you're there, you're maybe having your porridge, you're having your breakfast, and they say, 12 hours sleep. Something I want to know is, you know, when you do you have your match at 7:30, we have a thing in MMA where we do our fight day shakeout. I didn't do it in my amateur career. And it's only something that happened in my pro career where we'd go in and we'd do around 12 o'clock in the day, we'd go down and we'd do some pad work, we'd do some grappling, just loosen out, nothing crazy. But after I'd just say, I'm ready now. Whereas the morning of waking up for a fight, I'm like, what am I doing? And you know, but as soon as I've done my shakeout, as in like you said, you've done your run out. Maybe it's like your captain's run the night before, I don't know. But then once you're actually in the moment of it, we talked about on the first podcast and the whole top of the roller coaster going down, you're in the state of flow. But again, something was worth noting is you're only in a state of flow, I think, sometimes when you've put that work in.
I think if you've known you've done the work, there's less baggage in your head going in, you know, and it's, if you have baggage, I think the years that I didn't, as a team, we didn't play well, or I didn't play well, or whatever, individually or team, there was often too much baggage going in for different reasons.
Sure.
Maybe it was just overcomplicated, or was bad team morale for different reasons, or maybe I felt I hadn't done the work. But when you're bringing that baggage into the game, I think when you go in knowing you've done the work, and you were saying, I suppose, the day of our games would kind of start with a mobility session. We'd always get up, mobility, be breakfast, we'd have a team meeting, we'd have lunch, then we'd have a unit session where we'd walk through all our moves, and then after the unit session, then you'd have another pre-match meal, and then we'd be on the bus. You know, everything is done. You'd all the clarity, all the detail is done. But I suppose I did work very hard when I played. To me, I'm so happy that I did athletics growing up, because and the way I look at it is, I obviously in a team sport, but if every individual in the team works really, really hard, well then the team is obviously going to profit from everyone working as hard as they can. And that's why I worked hard as an athlete, because I was like, I am giving my best for the team individually. And then I always believed that everyone on the team should have done that. So that was my way of looking at it. And it was what you were saying there about Conor McGregor saying there's always going to be someone else coming up. So I was never sure of my place. In the 47 caps that I had for my country, I never thought I was going to start. And I suppose that was maybe what drove me on. I talk a lot about, I had a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-confidence all together, but it was knowing that there's someone else going to come along makes you work hard. You also work hard because you want to be a complete player. You probably similar, that you want to be a complete, can you be good at all the different elements of the game, or with you probably just so many different styles for you. Maybe it's slightly different. You have to maybe pick what it's going to make an Andy Murphy. I don't know. I'm no expert. I'm sorry.
No. Likewise, but you're trying to. It's like playing a PlayStation game. You know, when you're trying to create, like I often say, like if you're playing like UFC Undisputed, you're trying to do a well-rounded fighter. You're trying to be good in your cardio, your agility, your flexibility, your strength. You're trying to, like I said there. My background was obviously always having a very good aerobic base. I knew going in that 3 rounds was never going to be a problem for me if I could get to 3 rounds. The problem sometimes would be, okay, I could be facing a guy who's got like serious knockout power. So I was like, okay, I got to make sure I take this guy to the 2nd or 3rd round. His shots aren't going to be as hard anymore. Or, I'm going to try and put the pace on so that this guy is going to, I often said about you could be a black belt in BJJ, but as soon as you become tired, you become a brown belt. As soon as you become more tired, you become a purple belt. As soon as you become more tired, you're a blue belt. And quickly you're down at my level, because you're damn right, I'm going to be able to keep going. My cardio, even to this day, I get in with the guys, I'm doing the rounds here. I can still go into a training session and not be out of place in terms of my aerobic capacity. Maybe it's a mental thing as well. I don't know. But, you know, I do think that aerobic capacity studs me well. And I firmly believe it's definitely helped you with it. 80 minutes to be able to keep going. You know, the idea of like playing on the wing and going from A to B in a straight line is the quickest point destination. But like, you're able to keep making them bursts, keep making them bursts, keep making them bursts. And you're so competitive anyway. If someone hits you, you're back up straight away and you're going again. Like I say, I've nothing but admiration for someone like Alison, but I getting you on the podcast today, I just wanted to get that out there and just for people to see how much goes into this. But when you believe in yourself and you have a little bit of belief from others, it's amazing what you can achieve, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. I suppose I loved winning.
That's a pretty good. It's a pretty good way to be.
And I often used to talk to my husband about, you know, the process versus the outcome. And I essentially, a lot of the time, I was outcome driven, and I wanted to win, and we had to win as a team. But then a lot of me was then enjoyed the process, and the more I enjoyed the process and just enjoyed getting better, what I enjoyed most was knowing I was getting better in whatever way that was. So then if I knew I was the best that I could be going onto that field, you're helping the rest of your teammates, but also you see there's an enjoyment in improving. So regardless, that kept me going as well. Okay, I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at this. And that helped, obviously, the outcomes.
Sure.
But not that I was struggled with outcome versus process, but I probably was I was maybe too much outcome focused at times, but I did enjoy the process as well of it, you know, which is interesting, kind of.
A question I want to ask you now, right? Because I often talk about was like the nervousness, like, you know, before a big game in terms of rugby. Was it a similar feeling to when you were on the starting lineup for a race? So I say when the gun is about to go, you've got the All Ireland, say, track and field, let's say, and you're on the line. You've made it through South Leinster, you made it through Leinster, and now it's All Ireland track and field final day, and the gun is just about to go. Is it the same? Did you have the same feeling at the starting lineup of a race as you did for, say, start of a match about to kick off?
Yeah, it was kind of the same nervousness, but a slight difference, because I suppose when you're on the track, you've only got to look after yourself. Yeah. And if you mess up, well, that's me. I suppose you had the same, and you had the same feeling, all right, the same, oh, here we go. Yeah. But I used to actually sometimes before a rugby match, go, I wish I just had the nerves for athletics. It's only me. I don't have to worry about messing up for the rest of the team. And then I think if I was to go back into athletics mindset, then it'd be difficult, because I'm like, I'm on my own here. Yeah. No one's around to help me. So there was different feelings. And I actually used to sometimes think of athletics mindset before the rugby matches going, I wish I just had to concentrate on myself. Because what I used to worry about in rugby the most, and it's funny, I was a good defender, I was a good tackler, but what I suppose worried about most going onto the field was missing tackles, because as a winger, you're out on the edge a lot on your own, and it's a huge space to defend. And I think unlike if you play a GA game or basketball, in rugby, your actions can so much lead to the team, something happening, good or bad for the team. So if I miss a really bad tackle on the wing and they score a try, well, our team is suddenly in bother. So
and they're two very different. Like there's rare middle ground on the wing. Yeah. It's like it's either you're going all the way and you're picking up 5 or 7 points on this side, or you know, people are coming hunting for your head.
There's honesty about rugby, which I love, because everyone has to put their body on the line for each other, and there's no diving on the ground, rolling around, or trying to win a free. You just can't. Like
that MMA stuff.
Yeah,
our ref, he hit me with an elbow.
But there was always that fear. I was like, if I miss a tackle here, and on the wing, it's a hugely pressurized position, and you'd have that fear. Well, God, if I miss this tackle here now and they go under the post, well, I've let the others down. So it was that pressure in defence that you felt before the big game.
Okay. On to big games and bigger games. Talk to me about New Zealand.
Yeah, that was, I suppose, when we got the draw for the World Cup that year, it was New Zealand, brilliant. 4 times world champions.
Haven't been beaten
Have only
in
lost
years.
once in a World Cup since 91. Brilliant.
But they've lost.
Yeah, once. USA were in our group who had beaten us in the last World Cup. No, I didn't go to the one before that, 2000. And I can't remember what the year it was. So 2010. So I missed that due to injury. And so Ireland had played USA and lost and beaten them. So they played them twice in that. So that's a team that, you know, it's 50-50. And then you have Kazakhstan, which are relatively unknown, who are actually quite a good rugby playing nation in terms of women's game. So, yeah, you have a big challenge. The Women's World Cup, it'll be changing now, the next World Cup.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was 3 groups of 4 teams. You need to win all your games. And there's no quarterfinals, straight to semis. So there's no room for error. You lose a game, good luck. You might be the lucky semi-finalist that gets the edge or whatever. But so we knew if you want to get to World Cup semi-final, we just got to beat these guys. So that whole summer, we constructed a game plan. We got ourselves incredibly fit. And like what he was saying, if we could get to 60 minutes, we were fitter than them. And we knew that we would start to take over 60 minutes if we could be fitter than them. We knew we would be fitter than them. But we also believed we could win. We had a really good coach at the time, really good setup. Philip Doyle was coach Goose. Greg McWilliams. We had Peter Bracken as scrum coach, Gemma Crowley, Andy Weir Bagman. We just had a really good team morale, team environment, good culture. The culture was really good. So everyone bought in. Everyone between the bagman, the managers, the players, we were all buying into the same thing. So that was really important. That's a huge thing in team sport. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter what training you're doing. It doesn't matter what facilities you have or how many players you have that are world class.
Yeah.
So we had the buy-in, which was really good. That's so underestimated in sport at times, professional level. I can't understand how huge directors of rugby's choose to ignore it or whatever. Like, get that right. Happy team, more like you play well. Very simple philosophy. If you're not happy in sport, in the sport you're doing, you're not going to play well. So we constructed a good game plan around them. We had, I suppose, a sense of freedom. They gave us the tools, they gave us the knowledge, they gave us the information that when we went out onto the pitch, we were doing what we had to do. And they had coached us really well, but it was ultimately over to us then. So we won our first game against the USA, and then it was New Zealand. Now, before that game, personally, in our unit session, I kept running the wrong lines all the time. So, like, not running the wrong lines. I won't say running the wrong lines.
Sure.
The timing of the lines was slightly off. So going into that game, I was like, God, I can't get the timing of any of these plays I have to do right. I'm slightly overrunning the line or underrunning the line or missing it just slightly, which timing in your set piece moves is a huge thing. So I was not getting the timing right. So probably headspace was not good going into that game for me. But yeah, I had probably best game of my life.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting. So just goes to show, sometimes we can look into how I was feeling before that game or how the prep went. We might look into those kind of things too much sometimes because ultimately you're in competition mode when you step onto that field. So really, if you've had a bad team run, if you've had a bad week, it doesn't matter if you can just park it and realise, okay, it didn't go well, but now is the time to perform. So we started off that great game, and I remember facing the haka, and I went, I'm not looking at this. So I kind of blurred my eyes. So it looked like I was looking at it, but I was like, now you can have your thoughts about the haka, which I do. But
you can elaborate.
It's a brilliant tradition. I love it. But in modern day rugby, I watched the Men's World Cup there.
Yeah.
Should a team have to stand there in modern day sport, which is basically intimidation ritual? I laugh because England get fined for coming,
Yeah.
But yet they have to stand there and watch it. And teams say they love it, and there's the traditionalists versus the non-traditionalists. Frankly, I was like, why do I have to look at this? Do it after the game if they win or lose. But so I just kind of blurred my eyes. And I'm not going to lie, I imagined that they were moving chickens. That's what I did. I did.
That's what you visualized.
I did.
Love it.
In my head, just moving chickens. And then when we went to kick off, I just felt no pressure. It's like, here we go. These are 4 times world champions. We're the Irish. We're going to give it a go. And there was a sense of that flow feeling, no fear. And we went out and we bet them, 17-14. I got a try in the crucial minute. Everyone, our defence was awesome. Paula Fitzpatrick, one of our players, had an outstanding game. She was brilliant. Niamh Briggs with the boot slotted penalties that international men's players will struggle to kick. Tanya Rosser, 50th cap. She's a New Zealander, born and bred there. Had a brilliant game at 9. There's too many good performances to actually highlight, but our defence on that day was key to winning that game.
Were you more focused on the outcome or the process? Bringing it back to that balance from earlier.
Bit of both. We were going out to win that game. Greg McWilliams, our attack coach, finished every meeting that week before New Zealand game. I can't remember if every meeting, but he definitely the last 2. He just finished the meeting and go, "This is happening. We are beating New Zealand," and he just get up and walk away, and we'd all be like, "Okay." And then the last meeting before that match, he'd said it again, and I don't remember too many words over the years, but I remember that. Just finished the presentation, PowerPoint, whatever, video clips, video analysis. This is happening. We are beating New Zealand, and got up and went, and we all had to get up then to go and play the game. So we wanted to win. So it was a little bit of both. We were going out there to win, but yet it was playing New Zealand. You have to be in the moment all the time. So you can't be thinking behind or ahead. It was literally instinctive stuff nearly, because you look up and there's a prop running at you, and you're like, the New Zealand props have such good footwork. You're like, a prop can step me as a winger. Anyone, the 1 to 15, every one of them was a huge threat. So you're just playing within the moment, doing, it's process, but ultimately what was your goal was to get the outcome you wanted. Sure. So they're probably tied together a little bit.
What do you think it did for the women's game off the back of it?
It's funny. I didn't realise you're over in Marcoussis in France. I deleted my Twitter account at that time. I don't know why. I did. So I wasn't seeing any of the messages, or I wasn't on WhatsApp at the time. So I we were just playing as we did. And it wasn't until I got home, everyone watched that game. We were in a pub, everyone watched it, and did a lot for the women's game. One girl recently told me, she said, I had given up rugby till that point, and then when I watched that game, I took it back up. It was funny, one of the girls is playing for Ireland now. She met us in the airport. She's a 12-year-old. She's playing internationally now. So I suppose we were the first Irish senior team to beat New Zealand. It probably, we have fantastic female athletes in this country, teams, individuals, and what they do, I don't mean this, but if men did that, my God, it's nearly like the women in this country have to, the Katie Taylors of this world have to be world class to get a headline. And that's, look, we've got a long way to go in women's sport, but even the women's hockey getting to the Olympics there, and oh my God, I think that was, I tweeted, they are the most mentally tough team we have in this country. To go down the way they did in the penalty shootout, and to come back and get an Olympic qualification after such a bad start. So they're our most mentally tough team. We spent the whole summer watching the men's, not summer, I suppose, September, October, November, watching the men's rugby team, which high hopes, and ultimately they failed to deliver. But yeah, we have this team who time and time again deliver on the biggest stage, but we only see them every now and then,
A few column inches here and there.
So it's going to be a different point, I suppose. Maybe you could have it for a different day.
It's a great discussion, because I think even for me, when you talk about female sport, and I think for me in the sport of mixed martial arts, it's only since Conor McGregor came around that people know what MMA is in this country.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's still not really recognised. I know this week there was the IMAFs over in Bahrain. There was an Irish team sent over there, but some really, really good guys coming through, and people train twice a day, 6 days a week, dedicate themselves to it, but still not seen as a sport, unfortunately. And maybe that's an element of the whole Conor McGregor type thing. People see the violence, they don't see the training, the technical element, the work that goes in. Same with me and maybe former jobs, I've worked in. It's you're working in a place or whatever. You are a professional athlete, but because of the sport you do, it's just that. Or maybe the same for yourself. You've competed and you've trained equally, if not harder, than a lot of men that are competing at a high level, but yet you don't get the same recognition. I'll bring it back a few years, and I was doing the strength and conditioning or the fitness coaching for Wexford Camogie for the months of, I think it was January, February and March. A good friend of mine, Jerry McQuaid, he had to go away to Australia for 3 months, and basically he needed cover for his role as conditioning coach. So he got me because he knew my background in athletics. He knew I could periodize an aerobic program, going from, having an aerobic base to getting your speed, your aerobic capacity, then getting your speed endurance, then going to your speed agility kind of stuff. So he didn't want someone just coming in, just doing random sessions. He was like, Andy, this is the way it's periodized. Could you go in and do that? So I had trained Carl Rugby Club the year previously and pushed the guys. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going from training Carl Men's Rugby Club to now going training Wexford Camogie. And this might come across sexist, and this will tell you how young I was at the time too as a coach. I remember going in and setting up a training plan that night for Wexford Camogie, having nearly like a preconceived idea of the level of the training I was going to be at, how I maybe have to ease into this or whatever. The next thing, I arrived at the training session for Wexford Camogie, as I always do. I always like to arrive early, 45 minutes early, whatever, setting up all the stuff. And then I could see JJ Doyle and his management crew. They were bringing out 4 spinning bikes from a van, putting spinning bikes on the side of the pitch. And I was thinking, what are the spinning bikes doing there? Next minute I saw they had the intermediate team and the seniors coming all in together. And they had just 4 ladies that were injured that night. But yet the whole training session, they were on a spinning bike. While I was doing all the strength and conditioning element, the ladies were phenomenal. Now, I mean to say, there was none of the ladies spending time in the dressing room getting fucking taped up by physios and all this sort of crack, missing the warm-up. They were all out on the pitch. They were all ready to rock. There was no, chatting, bickering, this, that, or the other. They were all ready for my call to action, let's just say. And anything I said, they were doing. And the level that they had was phenomenal. I remember that day going home thinking, I'm going to have to up this level for the next few weeks while Jerry's away. Because there's no disrespect to Cal Rugby Club, by the way. I've coached a lot of teams and that, but I've seen the same thing happening. Lads getting injured all the time, and it's the same guys going into the physio room for 15 minutes while warm-up's on, and it's those guys missing a warm-up, getting injured, blah, blah, blah. But that Wexford Camogie team that year, they won the intermediate All-Ireland and they won the senior All-Ireland. I only played a very small part. I was there for 3 months while Jerry was away. He came back and did the rest of it. But I think what you're saying there about females in sport, sometimes they definitely don't get the credit they deserve. The work that this lady's put in beside me, if it was a male, they'd probably be getting big mad sponsorship deals. They'd be going around in a sponsored car. They'd be doing meet and greets, this, that, and the other. A farce, if not. I'll be totally honest about it. I think it needs to be kind of discussed, because there's certain superstars out there, or seen to be superstars, and they're not really. Or there's people out there doing far bigger work. And I think this lady beside me is a credit to herself, her family. She's done phenomenal in athletics, phenomenal in football, done phenomenal in international rugby. But behind it all, there's just a really good person and a very hard-working person as well.
It's funny, actually, because that Wexford Camogie team would have had so many brilliant players over the years. It was credit to them. I suppose he'll give out to me for saying this, but when I first started going out with my husband, he came to my first international game and he's like, I was blown away by that. And I was like, what? Why, what did you think I was doing all these weekends we were training? What did you think? And he goes, I just was not expecting that. And I was like, what were you expecting? Where do you think I was going?
From a level of play?
Level, yeah. He just was like, whoa. And he makes a great comment about rugby. And he goes, I don't care who's playing rugby. If it's played well, I enjoy it. So if it's a man, and he will say, look, I go to plenty of bad men's games that are terrible. I've been to women's games that are terrible. So there is bad women's games, there's bad men's games, but if it's played well, I'll enjoy it. And as he said, for years he came to our Irish games and he goes, that team from 2012 to 2015, 16, 17, whatever, 15, we'll say 16, play rugby well, and I enjoy that. I suppose there's a huge campaign now, 2020 campaign, to get more women playing, coaching, media, spectatorship, everything by 2020. And I think most female athletes don't want fancy cars and stuff, but it's just maybe a respect thing. If you read the comments of the 42 on women's sports. They're horrific. Now, if you want to have a laugh, like, and you're like, but you're actually, oh, who cares? But you've obviously put the effort of going into the article to make comments. So somewhere you care or it bothers you. Like, and I think women's sport won't change till society changes their view on women just in general. Like, you know, equal pay for women in the workplace, how people see women outside of sport, just in the general public or the general society, how we see women. So that will hopefully, if that changes, then, like, if I was sitting here, if we were 100 years older now, in 100 years, like, would things have changed?
You'll probably still be here in 100 years.
Like, when you think about, like, when we're allowed women, or when you think about women weren't allowed to vote in Ireland, whatever, like, and we think about that now, we're like, that's mad. Like, imagine that they got away with that. So hopefully in 100 years' time, they'll be looking back at our chats and be like, my God, the women didn't get as much as the men. So hopefully in 100 years,
your podcast 10,002 episode, Andy's great grandson.
Nice. Just don't change anything. It's cool. It's all right. So not to gloss over it, right? So you've got New Zealand, you've got the Irish side of things. You get a successful Six Nations campaign under your belt. You get a Grand Slam under your belt, and you've entered your international retirement side of things. When you're talking about training, when you're talking about development, you're talking about mindset, and a lot of things that have come up in podcast and in other conversations. What were the big differences for you from when you first started on the international scene to calling time on it?
I suppose for me, calling time on it, I was one of the older players, and I think there's a makings of a great Irish team now with the young girls that are on that team now. It's not going to happen overnight, but I would be too old to go on that journey again with them. So when I started playing, we weren't winning, we were getting beaten, badly in some games by England, France maybe, and then we started winning. We had a group of a squad that there was girls there for a long time that were trying. New girls came in, new talent, and we then had great highs, and then there was lows, which there has been now kind of with the Irish women's team. But what's happening now is there's young and up and coming girls that there's a makers of a great Irish team there. They're young, but for me, I suppose I was too old to go on that journey again of the up. Like, I mean, I've had the low, the high, the low, so it's not my journey to go on. I suppose, in a way, this is not going to say bad, but from 2012 to 2015, we had a brilliant management setup. We were so professional that, like, I'd nearly say now that it's probably, it has gone more professional in ways, but they were ahead of the time doing the stuff there. So with an Irish setup, probably have to get back to some of those stuff they were doing back then. There's more players playing now. The game has changed essentially. I think the skill level of the players has improved. The defence in rugby in every game has improved. So defences are better now. Maybe not better, but just different. So like a lot of teams will put 30 in the line and only have 2 players in the backfield, things like that. Line speed, aggressive line speed. Offside's a huge issue in rugby though. So a lot of the line speed comes from teams being consistently offside, and that's something that World Rugby will have to deal with. I spent the whole Rugby World Cup shouting on the television because teams are always offside. So there's less space in the game. So that you see that in the men's game, you see it in the women's game. Obviously, since I started now, we've 3 teams that are professional in the women's game, like the countries. So England are fully professional now as women's team. They train Monday to Friday, they get paid. And New Zealand are semi-professional in a sense that they're not sure how they do it, and France are semi-professional and they're getting paid. So what's changed is now you have an Irish team that are amateur and they have to go play England, who are getting paid and are training every single day, and that's their job. So we're at a stage now where some teams professional are getting paid, some aren't, and the gap unfortunately kind of is rising between some countries. So that's a change. The sevens circuit has taken off. I played sevens internationally for Ireland for 3 or 4 years. So that's big step up in the women's game. There's more women's professionally. There's Olympics in sevens now. But ultimately the game has changed in different ways. there's more girls playing rugby in Ireland and the world. It's, I think, it's one of the fastest growing women's sports. But essentially, yeah, there's been improvements in how players are definitely looked after within the RFU. There's, great people working with players on off the field issues that then, help work, education, the sports psychology of it, the rehab and the physios. There's more support for the player now than there would have been. Now, there was very good support years ago, probably in a more, how would you describe it? I'm not trying to think of the word. Maybe in a more small, less organisational way that you would be looked after, but probably more, I won't say the word, not parochial, but in a more smaller, close-knit, make sure people are looked after. Now it's probably someone's job to do that, if that makes sense. You would always have been looked after, but now it's someone's job. It's a job title. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Was there a different mindset between 15s and 7s for you? Or is winning? Let's just go out and...
Oh, well, I enjoyed 15s a lot more. So I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed the years we had in 15s. I think there's no better feeling than a week leading up to a big game. I probably struggle with 7s because it's a 40-minute game. Yeah. Luck comes into it. Whether we like to admit that, if the 7s people in the world like to admit that, it does. If someone falls and slips, it's a massive pitch. Or, you'll often see... What I always notice about 7s is there's shocks, and you're like, oh, that team, there can be a different... Now, ultimately, usually the best team will win, but down around the different rankings then, if you're playing a World Series from 1 to 12, it'll always change. So a team can beat one team the next day. So luck kind of comes into it. I suppose maybe it's what you're brought up, but I started playing 15s, so I preferred that as a game. I think it's a purer game. 7s is probably more athletes, even though I was an athlete myself.
You're an athlete.
But, the mindset, oh, Jesus, I still wanted to win. I never hate losing. Mm-hmm. And we had some rough years in 7s where we did lose a lot. And it did bother me. It really annoyed me. I, wanted to win. Now, we had some early on 7 years that were very good. And then some later on years then in 7s that got very good as well. But I still wanted to win, but I preferred 15s as a game. I think there's a different... In 7s, there's a smaller squad. And probably in 7s, you're all backs, in the 15s game if you play 15s. So you're probably all more similar, where in 15s, there's a wider range of mad personalities and an appreciation for that prop that does the tight work on the pitch and... the second rows. And so it's just probably a more diverse type of personality within a 15 squad than a 7s maybe, which I enjoyed the 15s more. And I think I loved 7s, but I didn't like, I don't know how this is solved. I didn't like how short the game was. It's 14 minutes. It's over before you know it. And you're like, 40 minutes is a eternity on the pitch, but it just used to be over so quick, and you're like, it's over. And then, you had to have this huge, fairly long warm-up, and then you're playing a 14-minute game, it's over. And you have to do it again, maybe in half an hour, 2 hours. You do that again, and then you do it again. So I loved it, but I was like, God, I wish it was nearly 20 minutes long if we could get to that fitness level where we're playing longer, because I just felt like...
You can get into it that bit more.
It's over before you know it. You're like, oh, it's over.
Going back to our athletics career, do you remember there's always a divide between the distance runners and the sprinters. Like we're going out doing our middle distance running, we're doing maybe a 90-minute run, or you're doing your track session, you come back 12 400s with a minute recovery for your middle distance runners, and then there's you're doing 5-10 minute warm up, blah, blah, you do that run, and then you see all the sprinters doing all these little fancy little speed, agility, quickness drills, and you ask them what they did for the training session, and their session involved 6 by 40 meter sprints with 3 minutes rest. You're like, that was your session. So that's handy. That's not even training. I'm not doing 12 4s and they're all in around 60, 65 seconds, 1 minute rest, you go again. And you're telling me that's your training session. But so jealous. And you see an hour and a half for a training session compared to a sprinter's doing an hour. You're like, I'd rather be you, but I was just a little whippet, skinny guy. So
are the sprinters staying on the rainy nights and do their accelerations over 50 meter strip?
And we'd be going out into the horrible elements and that. Now
I was kind of I was interested enough in doing athletics because I did obviously combined events and I did 400 hurdles and I did 800. So I kind of was in between them nearly. Like I didn't have the out and out speed to be a sprinter, but I was a good 400 hurdler and I could run a good 800 time, you know. So I was kind of always like, I could have been one or the other. I was nearly both at the same time.
Yeah, you could easily do a decathlon. I talk about MMA being like the decathlon of combat sports. I don't think I could have went from like middle distance running to just purest boxing or middle distance running to purest, I don't know, like wrestling. Or, I don't know, maybe I could, I don't know. But I just felt like for me with the MMA transition, it was that element of being good in all areas because I had a decent aerobic base. I felt I could flow into that. Maybe same for you, Miller, going from like being good in all those areas in athletics. You have to go then into your rugby. Or like I said, you could still go out and play football now. You could play soccer. I could probably bring you into these mats now and get you on the mat on a Tuesday night and turn you into a serious MMA athlete.
Blue belt by Thursday week.
Huh?
Blue belt by Thursday week.
Yeah, probably. But I can only imagine this lady, if she did take up something like BJJ, I think she'd be phenomenal. I think a lot of rugby teams are incorporating things like the grappling arts into it then as well.
I know the
Did you ever do
Irish.
any of that, like, with
the Irish women's sevens. Now, after I left, went to McGregor's gym to do a session with.
the enemy gym.
Sorry.
SPG.
We'll have to give them your contact now. You'll give them a better rate, wouldn't you?
For sure. Just tell them
You'll still sell him a hat for a tenner though.
info urbangym.ie.
So there will be a bit of that, yeah. Actually, my friend Elaine Ryan, gave her a shout out. She was fighting in the Red Cow the other night.
Did she win the Warrior?
Is
that what it was?
The fight only lasts 30 seconds because she bet the girl on a
TKO.
Yeah.
She probably ran to the cage, rugby tackled her, buried her, and just stayed on
she
top.
was a former Irish sevens player, a hockey player. So just give her a shout out.
Stop.
Yeah, so we actually were looking at the picture on my phone on the way up. So she's loving it, of course.
Yeah,
and,
is her opponent still alive?
I think she broke her nose after 10 seconds. Elaine did.
If I signed up to Winter Warrior, I'd hope that I'm because it's meant to be like Winter Warrior, i.e. you are. Originally, I thought Winter Warrior was the idea of
everybody starts from zero.
Finding off this death, someone that's like not done anything before, like that typical wimp. But imagine you're like sign up to Winter Warrior. Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and then you get to fight somebody who's competed at sevens, rugby, hockey, and there's like I'm fighting that person.
She texted me during the day. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm fighting." I was like, I just texted her back. I said, that poor girl there. I said, you're fighting. And then she texted me back going 30 seconds. And I went, I don't know if this is to you or against you. That it only lasted 30, but she did well. So fair play to her. So she's someone there now from rugby that has gone into it and she's loving it. She wanted a new challenge when she left rugby.
Yeah, cool.
I don't know if I'd be any good at this now.
I'll be honest. I know that Miller would be good at this. Like, she would be phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. Anything this lady tries her hand at with sport. But I think, to be honest, anything, you know, and I say this to everybody. Like, I jokingly say all the time, I was saying to Gary when he came in, I was like, I'm still that guy that can't hang a picture on the wall. But if I wanted to get good at hanging a picture on the wall, you know what I do? I go and like keep practicing it. I go to someone that can teach me how to do it.
You're not good at hanging pictures on the wall?
No.
Neither is my husband. There's a picture in our sitting room for the last 4 years on the ground that I want hung up. So I just like to embarrass him here now that he maybe get the picture hung up before Christmas.
But sorry.
We need a microphone in the stands over here.
There's the element of it. If you I think even for Alison, when she took up rugby in fourth year, and then you say, okay, I'm doing that, and then you turn up, and I say it to my MMA guys, I say it to the people coming for health and fitness. So on our first podcast, you know, if you want to get good at something, or you want to get fit, you want to get healthy, you want to lose a few pounds, you want to gain a few pounds, whatever it is that element of volume over time. Is consistency. There's no quick fix. You know, Alison turned, you know, into a professional rugby player overnight. It took a bit of time. Yes, she had a very good foundation beforehand, which definitely helped her. But all those years of hard work, hard training, both in athletics, in football, in St. Leo's, which is a very competitive school in terms of sport for ladies in Carlow, all got to that point. The same for me with MMA. I do believe, like, you know, I do believe my running career helped me massively in terms of the discipline it took to get up and train on the days I didn't want to train. Because not every day, you're not motivated every day to train. I don't care what anybody says. You know, you go through different cycles, whatever. But if you can still turn up and get something done, I always say the idea of if you're genuinely sick, you're not feeling well, whatever. You know, say you turn up, you do the warm up. If you're still not feeling well after the warm up, you know, in terms of like your run down, your shot, you know, you're not feeling well, then, go home, rest up. But 99% of the time, if I turn up and train, I've done the warm-up, I'm into the session, and the training normally goes quite well. I can probably count on one time I've had to stop after a warm-up. I've been told by a coach, look, take the day as a rest.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, my mother used to laugh at me because I used to go to most sessions going, I don't feel like it. She goes, you never feel like it. But if I had thought too much about how I felt and never done a training session in my life,
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that a lot of what we do, once you, like you say, you come in, you do the warm up, and then you're feeling it, and then you're in it.
Yeah.
So, because people will often say to me, how did you stay so motivated all the time? Did you must love it? I was like, sometimes we can just think too much. Our mind can make us stop doing things because we think too much. It gives an out. Yeah, exactly. And as you're saying, I was so blessed to have done athletics over the years in St. Albans. And yes, those years, like you said with your athletics, my athletics helped my rugby. So I did a lot of like strength and conditioning work through athletics that ultimately put me in a position to be a good rugby player. And yes, I got to play for Ireland after a year, but ultimately then 10 years of improving and all that. But maybe I didn't get the rewards in athletics from all that training, but it ultimately led me then to be a good rugby player. Yeah. So yes, I took rugby up early, and maybe for some girls that saw me maybe going ahead of them, like I was, I didn't come out of nowhere. Like I was doing that fundamental.
You had your homework done.
Yeah, already, like in a different sport, but it's a sport, you know.
And then you keep turning up, like you said about going into the Irish camp for the first time, and then nobody knowing you.
Yeah.
I said that on the first podcast too about going to Alphamale. No one knew me. That first week training Alphamale, nobody knew me. I was just Irish guy. But the fact that I turned up on the mats 3 times a day for those days I was there, the following Wednesday when it came to spar, everybody wanted to spar Irish guy then because he could see that I was there training. I wasn't taking out the phone. I know I'm pretty mad for my social media now and stuff like that, but when I went to Alphamale, I made a real habit of I'm not taking my phone out. I'm not a fanboy. I'm a professional athlete. I'm training with professionals. I'm here to test my skill set against them. I have no doubt they'll want to test their skill set against me. I remember Uriah Faber asking me on the second week of sparring, he goes, there's a Chechen there, watch out, he's got wild kicks, he's tough. And then I just turned to him and said, I'm tough too. And then Uriah goes, all right. And I was like,
done.
And then first thing a man threw was a spinning kick, and I checked it. I just checked onto the phone, came back with a left hook, right straight. You're straight into that flow of sparring. And there was no hype. Whereas about 5 years ago, if Uriah Faber said, watch out for that guy, but oh shit, what's he going to do? So mindset plays a big role. But what you said there about, you were, as your first time there, I think Sean O'Brien mentioned, a Carol man obviously playing rugby international, going into the Irish setup or Leinster setup, being a guy from Tullow. He's not from, the Black Rock and all that sort of stuff. But he kept turning up, and soon enough, everyone knows who Sean O'Brien is now. Do you know what I mean? Same
and you make a good point. Like, there's no quick fix in sport. There's no quick fix in life either. But I think nowadays, maybe in society, everyone's looking for a quick fix.
Yes.
If I do this diet or if I do this type of training, but like ultimately, you just have to do what you're doing regularly and keep doing it and keep doing it. And as you said, people don't see the hours of work going into when you turn up to your fight. You're there and everyone's like, oh, that'd be deadly to do that. But I suppose they're not seeing you turn up and turn up and turn up and no quick fix. Just doing the process, doing the work, doing the hard work. And I suppose it's like that for anything that anyone wants to do. Like, I'm no expert on the fields of science or whatever, but it's all the same regardless of what you want to do. You just have to keep putting the hard work and keep turning up, and your time will come then if you work hard.
Totally. And not being afraid to fail in the sense of, like, even for me, like, I never had any aspiration. If I'm totally honest, I know a lot of fighters will come out and say, yeah, I visualize this and fighting on this and that. I didn't. If I'm honest, I took up MMA because I was a little whippet of a guy. I've known Alison a long time. I've known Gally, her husband, absolute legend of a guy. People I would call genuine friends. And I was a whippet. I was scared. If you say boo to me, I'd run a mile. So I didn't take up MMA to compete. So I was just mad enough to stay doing it for a long time. I would never brand myself as a tough guy or, I got to compete. I was never, when I was in there, obviously I wanted to win and all that. And then when I lost the fight, I'd figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? How do I make myself better? And I'd try and go again. That's all it was. But I think sometimes people are so afraid of, losing or not looking good in performance. Or I go back to running days and I think about when I used to compete, and the fear of like, oh my God, what if I don't win a medal today, or oh, such and such I've turned up and I'm in the motion. And I haven't changed that mindset of, I feel if I went back running now, and I had my experience that I have now on the track years and years ago, I think I'd be a far better runner, because I didn't have to worry about anybody hitting me when I was going for a race. I didn't have to worry about anyone coming in and double legging me, or taking my back or taking my foot home in terms of heel hooking this or that. It was all within me. And I remember Jerry McQuaid, a coach I had in college, and we worked with Jerry together. And Jerry used to say to me, I had a diary similar to the way I have a pink diary for here with Urban Gym. I had a diary of my training. And Jerry used to say to me, look back at your diary, look at all the ticks that are on your diary, and you'll know that the work is done. And that meant that it didn't matter who turned up on the day to race. It was me just focused on me. I knew I've got that work done. So if someone beats me and I've done my work, then you know what, fair play to them, because they're the better guy on the day or whatever. But if someone beats me who isn't my level and I've not done the work, then that's when I feel really bad. And that's when I get down about performance. But if I've put my work in, I put the graft in, I put the time in, then I don't mind it. I'm very competitive like you are. We're both the same in that. But I can take it a little bit better, and I'll go again.
With putting the time in mind, I'm conscious that we're coming to time on the podcast side of things as well for this week. Alison, in a nutshell, what's future Alison Miller at? International stuff is done. Interprovincial stuff is there. I copped you training the youths in Kilkenny last week or the week before. So there's what are you at now?
Well, I'm a teacher, I suppose. So I PE teacher in history. So I do enjoy helping people. I'd love to mentor athletes. I don't know if I particularly love to be a head coach or a coach of a team. I'd like to go in and mentor, wingers or players and certain things. My sister actually, give her a little shout, Grace, she took up rugby 2 or 3 years ago. I retired in March. In September, she got named in the Irish squad. So I actually was working with her the other night on like certain elements of the game, and I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I've done a little bit of commentary, little bit of journalism, over the World Cup. I enjoy that. I'd love to probably get involved in some media work. I'm a good talker, as you can see. So I enjoy that element. I don't know. Gally, my husband, laughed this, but I wouldn't mind running the marathon actually for the challenge of it. It's always something I had in my head.
All right.
To run a marathon.
Sub 3 hours in your first attempt.
Oh well, we'll just get it finished on the first attempt, I think. But yeah, look, I'm still playing club rugby for Old Belvedere. Still playing provincial. So I'm staying involved in the game. I'm one of the oldest players when you're playing club level. Still playing at 5 now. There's a few, but generally, so I enjoy helping the younger members or anyone that wants a bit of advice. I'm there to help within that environment. Or this year with Connacht, we had some very young girls that have great potential. I enjoyed helping them while I still played. I did a bit of player coach in Connacht. So the way I am thinking about it, I actually don't know, but I'd love to stay involved in the sport of rugby in different ways, whether that's radio, television, mentoring. But you have to be open to it, and you have to be, as you said, not afraid to fail and do those things, because you might be good at one thing, you might not be good at the other. So I'll give it a go. Yeah. And my mindset now is I'm one of these people that will always say, no, I can't do that. Oh God, I couldn't do that. So now my philosophy is like, say yes. And if you're good at it, you're good at it. If you're not good at it, well, so what?
You give it a crack.
At least you tried it. Yeah. So that's my philosophy now, is I'll say yes to things that I would automatically want to creep away from.
Super.
Like Jim Carrey. Yes, man. Yes, woman.
Well, look,
I can't say no.
It's a good philosophy. It's a good philosophy and a good positive mark to leave things on. Congratulations on the Irish career. Continued success in whatever you do. You've undoubtedly made and left your mark on the sport and opened the doors for the current generation and the next generation. And thanks for the chats.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been your podcast episode 2. Subscribe as soon as you can, like right now. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, everywhere else, and see urbangym.ie. Good luck.